In this video, you're going to learn about the relationship between the speed of an object, the distance it travels, and the time it takes to travel a given distance while moving at a certain speed. The speed of an object, of a moving object, is defined as the distance it travels in a given time. So instead of distance, I could be more specific and say the distance traveled and then divided by the time taken. Another thing I'll point out is when people refer to the speed of an object, they usually mean the average speed. So don't worry too much about why we're saying an average speed. Just be careful to know that anytime if you see average speed in terms of speed, use the same formula. So imagine you have a path, say a road, and you have an object. So I'm going to call this position A. I'm going to call this position B. Now if the object, which is this circular object here, is at this point A, this position A, at 1 p.m. assuming it moves and by the time it gets to point B, the time is 1:30 p.m. and imagine the distance between point A and point B is 30 kilometers. To determine the speed of the object, because we don't know the speed, we just know that the distance between point A and point B is 30 kilometers, and we know the times at which it's at point A and point B. Well, to determine the speed, you need to know the distance traveled by the object, and we are given that distance. So that distance in this case is 30 kilometers. So I'll call D distance, and then the time it takes for it to move from A to B. Well, the time is simply the time interval between 1 p.m. and 1:30 p.m. and that's 30 minutes. You know that on your clock, you can easily think about it. Just think of a clock and think of the time it takes for the time to change from 1 p.m. to 1:30 p.m. It's exactly 30 minutes. So the speed of this object, well, I can convert 30 minutes to 0.5 hours, and I'll tell you why shortly, but 30 minutes is half of an hour, so that's 0.5 hours. So the speed of this object, or the average speed of this object, is the distance it travels. So we're considering the distance between point A and point B. So the distance is 30 kilometers divided by the time it takes to cover the distance, which is 30 minutes, in this case 0.5 hours. I'll tell you why I'm using the using time in hours. So our speed in this case is simply 30 divided by 0.5, which is 60 kilometers per hour. So this is just an intro to the whole idea. This is something you should be familiar with. So speed is distance over time is the key thing you need to take away from this section. Now, common units of the distance between any 2 points are the following. So the kilometer, the mile, some of you might have heard of the mile. In some cases, which won't be common, but I mean, a centimeter can be used to specify the distance between 2 points. And there are a few others, but the key one is the kilometer. In terms of time, you should just be worried about, or you shouldn't be worried, but you should just be familiar with seconds, which I've written as secs, but I'll write it down fully. Seconds, minutes, and hours. And this is something you are familiar with. Now, the unit of speed depends on what unit you use for your distance and your time. So I'll show you what I mean. You know that the speed of an object is equal to the distance it travels divided by time. So let's just say distance over time. So if your distance is in kilometers, so distance over time, and your time is in seconds, then the unit of your speed is kilometers per second. If for your question the distance is given in kilometers and your time is given in hours, then your speed is in kilometers per hour. So and this is the most common unit you come across, kilometers per hour. But in the scenario where your speed is in miles and for some weird reason your time is in minutes, you can actually use miles per minute if you wanted to. But in general, you should always work to determine your speed in kilometers per hour. So that's just good to know.